So I think that's now that stage. Of course, we still have the external antennas on the side, so there's about 3 of them sort of just sticking out in random directions. Now I'm not sure which place to put this in, because now the tanks are a little bit in the way here. Oh well, we can sort that out maybe at the last step. The more important step is to get the actual thrusters on now. So where to do that? Because now of course we can't put anything onto this fairing here. So this one will be a little bit more tricky, I think. I've got some ideas here. The octagonal struts will always be a friend, so let's see if I can use them. Now in the picture, okay, so let's say that's the door there, so they don't actually sit on the side of the door, but the antennas sit in the middle. So actually that's wrong the way that we've got it now. So again, if that's the door, the antennas should sit in the middle here, like that. Of course I have to now just fix it again. Something like that. Now in between those we can then put the thrusters, and I think slightly up on the upside, you know, the upper area of this whatever shape this is. So for now I think if I could just get them. Now you see the problem is with the tanks there. Maybe the tanks must come last. So then I'm not sure, is there something else that could work for that perhaps? That's a difficult one. I think maybe those blocks again, whatever they call the not Rockomax micronode. That's a bit too big. But let's see what it can do. Of course I can't actually even put a thruster onto them. That's a problem. That is an unforeseen problem. Of course there's the possibility of just moving the thrusters from the struts here. Something like that. Let's just see what this can do. Now this one I need to sort of angle. Very difficult, because every time I keep my mouse over the fairing it moves out of place. Not sure. What does that look like? Would this work? Maybe if the thrusters are slightly more to the top here. Okay, but that doesn't look so nice now. Interesting times. You know, that's all they're supposed to do, is to help us to orientate the spacecraft. And I think this, if I can just fix that a little bit, I think we can get away with this. The reason I don't want to use the octagonal struts right here is because you can see in the images they don't have a structure like that. These are solid things that the thrusters are basically attached to. So let's see if this will work. Then of course there's the issue now if this might interfere with the separation, because we have those octagonal structures in there. We'll have to test it. I mean, that isn't terrible. Let's just see what it can do. Now I maybe add the antennas. Let's put them here by the window so that the pilot can actually see what's happening if the antennas are extending. So we'll put one like that, then another one right next to it sticking a little bit up, and then one on the other side, sort of pointing in another direction. Then the tanks can be added. Of course, now we're going to have the situation where the antennas are clipping into the tanks. So maybe this has to be moved. It's not going to be perfect on one side. It's going to have to sort of use the gaps that we've got. Not quite, not quite. That one completely disappears. I'm not sure actually. What does this look like? I'm not sure about these thrusters, to be honest. Let's just go back again to the pictures. Let's find something else, another image somewhere. Just another one to see. I mean, I guess this would be the best one, and you can see these are the actual nozzles, I suppose, of the RCS system. But I can't again recreate something so small. And I know the tanks are smaller anyway, but oh well. So the pilot, where would the door be? On the top there, so the antennas are actually on the side of the door. Let's see if we can make that work. Tanks first. And with the 8 times symmetry, I can't get it exactly in the middle. It has to be like that. And I don't want to use 6. I could use 4 and then add another 4 perhaps. Again, same problem. Then they'll sit like this in pairs, which I don't want. So it's just gonna have to be like that. So let's see if the antennas could perhaps be placed somewhere in between there. Again, it's not exactly on the side, but oh well. Another one perhaps? Let me just play around with this a little. And now I've made that 4 times symmetry as well. Hey, these are the things we deal with, eh? Something like that. So it looks like it comes out of one area there. And apart from that, what's left? So yes, I'm guessing let's just go with this sort of thruster setup here. Not perfect, but hey, it's something. Let's see if I can actually select the octagonal struts again, just to move them a little bit out. Probably going to be an impossible task. Or not. There we go. Just a little bit out. Not terrible. Not terrible actually. I kind of like this now. It's starting to grow on me. And at least the overall sort of proportions seem okay. You know, it seems like we've reached a good compromise with what is desirable and what is possible. Next step is to just put all of these antennas on a action group, because it's gonna drive me crazy to have to extend them all manually. Then let's turn this off. At the moment we can see we've got 1200 delta V, which is again not necessarily a reliable number, but it's way too much, way too much. This can take us to the moon, and that's of course not what we're supposed to be able to do. This is only a retro engine. So let's say about 300 to be safe, or 349. That's 54 seconds of burn, so it doesn't have a very high thrust to weight ratio, which is actually fine. We don't want too much force here. Is that thing, I wonder, just can I play around with that engine a little bit? It must be balanced like that, so it's only this way that it's not balanced. We'll find out very quickly if it's offset. There's only so much I could do. Now it might be too much to the other side here. Hey, let's undo that. Let's leave it. Let's just see what it does. Now, anything else? A few scientific instruments I'm sure would be welcome along the side here, so I can again use the octagonal struts, but this time I'll hide them and just have the instruments show, if of course I can actually attach it somewhere. So let's I'll put 4 points on here, but then we don't of course have to use all the attachment points. So down and then rotate it so that it's just hidden behind the fairing. This is what they call detail work, I guess. Little bit down. Perfection. What did the Borg Queen say? We strive towards perfection or something. So yes, we don't need to use this service bay. It's just there as a structure to attach things to. Now let's see. Barometer can do. Now we can't actually snap to that, so rotation, something like that, and then it will just stick out there, just lovely, you know, looking like some instrumentation panels and things like that. Definitely. And anyway, it doubles as science, so why not? What's the other one? The gravioli? And finally, I guess we can put the thermometer. This one doesn't matter too much, and it just perfectly sticks out there. Oh, that's so lovely. Of course, a mystery goo container is a much bigger thing, and then it sort of looks like, you know, it's not supposed to really be there. So for now, let's save this before something crazy happens and there's an earthquake or something in the computer and the power goes off. Vostok 1. Save. There we go. Now, of course, I can't recreate the Vostok with the 2 passengers. That will be impossible, really. The Vostok was just an extension of the Vostok. It just had a slightly bigger, I guess, room there for 2 people, but it was extremely cramped and it was basically the most unsafe spacecraft ever built. So I'm not going to clip another one of these passenger things onto there just to get another Kerbal in there. So we are going to avoid that. I think Gemini will be the one that we use for a two-person one. And even there it's going to take a lot of engineering and we won't be able to get it quite right, because the closest is again either using this, which would be very difficult, or something else which I have in mind, but that's for a later episode. I think for now, let us just strap something onto this, just a solid booster or something, I don't know, anything. I just want to test how it performs first. And to do that, let's actually create the whole fairing system here now. So we can create a fairing inside a fairing, at least that's something the game does allow, luckily. And the first step will be the attachment device. Now we've got a problem here. Because this engine is a radial engine, it does not have an attachment point of its own. We can attach it to the service module and try to move it down, but I have attempted this when I practiced for this video, and all that happens is you can't get it all the way. You see, it hops to about there, and I think when it releases it's going to have a lot of problems and you're going to have a lot of jumping around because it's around the engine. So the next obvious thing is to use these attachment points from that fairing. So what that does is it creates this kind of structure. Now it looks like this structure is going to remain here after we detach and obviously ruin the whole thing, but it's not. So it detaches from the whole thing as well. In a sense, it disappears, but for our purposes we just can say the structure which is just here to hold it up is detached. So at least again the developers have allowed us to do that. So first things first, let us put the let's put this on first, just like that, just far enough to actually give us the space. Then fairing, it has to be again the 1.5 because, or 1.25, because we're still using the same R7 essentially. Now to get this to attach to that one is a bit of a problem. There we go, maybe that will work. Now the issue is it's got to be wide enough to actually go around everything. That's not enough. So we're going to end up again with a very big fairing. And it won't allow me to place that because the fairing is probably sticking into it. Just a bit more. Something like that. That's not terrible, and we can certainly work with this. So I know again the real thing was flush with the rest of the structure, but this is Kerbal, so it's a Kerbal version. Now just purely for the testing purposes, this must detach like a clamshell, please. So let's take one of the really big solid fuel boosters and just see what this does. I'm just obviously have to put some wings on this thing. And reduce the thrust limiter like that. So this will kick the whole thing into basically a suborbital trajectory, which is all that we want really. Before we even start with the R7, we just need to know, will this thing work? So no passengers on this thing, no animals even. This is purely a sort of a technical test. So again, I'll forward this and play some music for you, and let's see what this contraption can do. That's it, that's all we really want to know. So there's a couple of things already that came up. The first thing was the fairings didn't detach as smoothly as I wanted because they got stuck underneath that structure there. The second thing is, of course, the capsule has a lot of torque, so we should really shut that down. Of course, I can't do that in the assembly building, I think, so it's just because it's totally overpowered, you know? So, let's see, where's that? Off. No, off. Normal. Can we turn it off? I guess on 0. There we go. It's nothing I can do now. That's why we've got the RCS after all. Why is it so weak though? What's happening here? Normal SAS only. That's very strange. See, I'm slowing it down, but what's happening here? Why is the RCS not really kicking in? Like that it works. Which I guess would be like a secondary control system if the main engine would fail, perhaps. So I guess it's maybe just so weak there, it doesn't really show up. But anyway, I was hoping for some jets there. It's just a small puff and then it stops. Might be something to do with where the center of mass is. But it works, and this torque is basically off. I'm not using SAS, so now it works. Strange. It's only when I press 2 buttons at the same time. Something to work out. Well, it was probably because of the caps lock. Ah well, obvious thing. There we go, it's all working now. It's not very powerful, but it works. There we don't get any puffs again. Oh well. So it's time to detach and just see if this thing will survive re-entry. So retract all the antennas and separate. Whoa, we got a lot of... No, that's a problem. That's not supposed to happen. I think the tanks were a bit in the way there. So now, of course, because the SAS is off and there is no control, it's just gonna burn up anyway. So let's revert. Revert to the assembly. So there's already a lot to do. Now, the first thing is when we do the automated launches, first things first, we have to trigger the parachute in orbit so that it sort of deploys. Obviously it will deploy when safe, so that shouldn't be a problem. We'll just activate it. Then the issue with these tanks just jumping around, or the separation just being so violent again, I don't want that. That shall not do at all. So let me move this thing a bit down. I wonder, will that help? It should. I think that should help. We'll just check again on the launch pad even. The second thing is there has to be a bit more clearance between the... if I can put it back there. Ah! It's crazy talk. Oh man, what are you doing? What? Because it also has its own, you know, attachment point, so it's going completely crazy. So it attached underneath this thing here, which is not good. So maybe the clamshell is not a good idea. Turn that off and see if it makes a difference. Then what else? The torque of that thing, maybe I can turn it off here. But why can't I turn it off completely? I think we used to be able to do that. There's SAS only. pilot only and normal. Now what is this wheel authority? Let's put it on pilot only and on 0. I'd like to not use that if possible. I think let's do another test and see how it performs this time. I think that's basically all I wanted to check. Okay, just another fast forward again, and then I'll meet you back here for a debrief, I guess. Okay, so a couple of improvements. First thing was the release of this fairing was much smoother. So I think maybe this one will have to remain on non-clamshell, at least for now. When we put it on the actual R7, we can play around a bit more with it. Also, by limiting the authority and putting it on pilot only, there was no reaction wheel. I could only use the thrusters, and this time there was actually a visual indication that they were working. They're very weak, and I guess it has to do with the way that they're sort of working against the center of mass. I don't know, but it works. It rotates the craft. That's all that we're looking for. The separation was still a little bit upsetting there, not emotionally of course, just in terms of the actual structure of the craft. And I'm sure it's got something to do with the way this tank is slightly clipping into the exterior of the craft there. Let me actually try and just remove the whole thing. Okay, so the craft, yes, but now of course I can't select that decoupler. What if I just put it back like this? Now see, this is too far for me, so at least let's play around with this a little bit. Just underneath that. I think that's okay. Just so it has a smooth, gentle release there. Everything else I think was working as planned, so overall a success, I think. We'll do the actual launch in the next episode. This one is just getting the whole thing in place, which is of course a struggle on its own. So I'll just save this again. Something like that. So as it stands now, we'll do another test of course with the well, we pretend with like animals again. But other than that, I think we are pretty much there. So if we look again, there is our basic, let's see, can I press 1? No, it doesn't work in the VAB. But there we go. So obviously without the antennas extended, but that is our Vostok. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and next time we can launch it, and the Venera as well. So these episodes where we actually build the stuff takes a long time of course. But I don't want to do all of this off camera and then I just show you, ta-da, there's the result. But you don't see the struggle that it goes through, basically. Not that I'm saying it's a burden or anything. I'm just saying, like with real life, we go through trial and error. But I want to share that with you, so you can see how it's built. And if you download the craft file, you can sort of just see what went into it. And maybe if you want to make your own. So there we go. That's it for this episode. Hope to see you in the next one. I'm having a real blast with this series here. So that's it. Have a fantastic day.